Move, Think, Smile specializes in conquering work-related stress, anxiety, fatigue, and the problematic side effects so you can achieve real, lasting peak performance in your career and relationships. This podcast is about answering one question. How can you turn all your burnout into a badass who says no to garbage and enjoys more of what's good so you can finally feel alive again while being a hero at work and home? All this information is 100% free, so please subscribe to and review our podcast. Good afternoon, everybody, and the Move, Think, Smile followers, all you rock stars and superheroes and the fatigue-free professional. It's Adam and Elliot coming at you live today. Now, I know we've taken a little break. We've been kind of silent for a couple weeks. We had the July 4th holiday in there. It was absolutely amazing. And the reality is we had a lot of people call us. We've been on the phone with a lot of people. We've had a lot of new clients come into the program, and we've just had some really miraculous success with everybody. And I would normally say, I'm sorry, we haven't been here, but we've actually been doing some really cool stuff. But I don't want to talk about that. Today, what we're really here to talk about are a couple things. One, we've got this survey that we've been doing for about the past 4 or 5 weeks or so. It's at the top of the feed in the fatigue-free professional group. And if you haven't got on it and clicked and answered, we'd love to hear from you, because starting later this week, we're going to start diving into the differences between burnout syndrome, chronic fatigue syndrome, ME/CFS, stress-related exhaustion, and all of those. And what's really interesting is, out of the 62 responses that we've gotten so far, about 30% or so have no idea why they're tired. And I think that's really interesting. And that's a really good leeway, Elliot, in today's episode. We really want to uncover, what are the 3 hidden threats to your energy? What are the 3 things that we see over and over again that are basically zapping people's energy, causing fatigue, and how to fix them before it really gets too late? And I think one of the things that, I just really want to kind of just hone this in is that, a lot of people think that they're okay. And I guess this kind of leads into the first energy state, right? Or the first hidden threat. And what is that?
Yeah, so the first threat is really looking at your state. Okay, so we're going to go through 3 different things, but state is so key. And this is something that we hear over and over in the group, is that it's like people have normalized fatigue so much, right? They've normalized their pain. They've normalized feeling like crap every day. And people don't realize how much your state affects all the decisions that you're making, all of the choices of the food that you're putting in your mouth, all the choices or the thoughts that you believe about what you can do. And so it's really important to understand that how you feel, your state, this is physiology. This is also what you focus on and the language you use, how that really, can be a hidden threat to your energy, because you don't realize, how much it's affecting you.
I think a lot of people, one of the things we like to say is, you've really got to get real with the suffering. And I want you to think right now on a scale here. Let me make sure I'm in the camera frame here. So this hand right here is going to be full on, full energy, feel great. I'm super happy. Everything's operating on full cylinders. And this one over here is, we're going to call this debilitating chronic fatigue syndrome, or ME, and I can never pronounce that word. My mouth just does not work that way. It's ME/CFS, and this is actually caused by a retrovirus. Okay. Now, most people fall somewhere in the spectrum between debilitating chronic fatigue syndrome, ME/CFS, and energy. And what we've learned is that the state of being, you've got to really identify where you're at. That even if you're over this way just a little bit, if you're in mild to moderate fatigue, that you really need to identify the difference between being just tired and actually fatigue. And here's how to know. Tired is when you go out. Like this morning, I went out and I did a 10-mile bike ride. I ran 5 miles on the beach. I'm probably kind of red right now. It was super hot. I'm still cooling off and I'm tired. Okay. But I feel really good and I feel happy. And I know I'm going to crash tonight like at 8 o'clock because my body's going to be like, I'm training for a Spartan Beast. It's a half marathon obstacle race up a mountain. Just leave it there. It's not easy. So that is tired, right? I've done a lot of stuff to my body, but I'm doing really good things. Fatigue is where even after a good night's sleep, you wake up not feeling refreshed. And that you experience a consistent feeling of tiredness more days during the week than you feel energetic. And so what society has taught us is to normalize that fatigue and burnout are just part of everyday life. And so you really got to get real with what state you're at right now. Does that make sense, Elia?
Yeah, it does. And, the state, like we said, it's really about your physiology and, like I said, focus. So again, if you're exhausted and you can't break out of that cycle, well, it's because, again, your exhausted state is causing you to make poor choices. But not only that, I also want to talk about how when you're in that state, fatigue is well known, and we see this all the time and in all the studies we've researched, is that it brings up a lot of our insecurities and anxieties, right? Because we don't feel as strong as we could be. And so a lot of people end up buying into the fear when they're in a state of fatigue. And what that means is they're buying into all of these what ifs, like, what if this doesn't work for me? Or what if I, lose my edge? Or what if I lose my job? Or what if I lose my business? And that fear starts, spiraling down. Or they start thinking things like, if I don't feel motivated or if I don't feel energetic, then I can't take any action. Right. And so, again, you can sort of see how this really gets you stuck in that cycle. And it's tricky, right? Again, like we said, these are kind of hidden underlying currents that are running through you and running you, and you don't even realize it.
Exactly. So it's really important to understand what state you're at, because a lot of people don't really get it. They're like, yeah, I'm kind of tired. I'm kind of low energy, but so is Sue, and so is John, and so is Bob. And well, look at that guy over there. I mean, everybody else is doing it. So I guess it's just the way life is. Guys, you need to understand that normal has become the new deadly, and fatigue is just not normal. It just isn't. And even a moderate level of fatigue, it's basically your body is crying out for help. And we now know science-backed research, and I'm not talking about medical, I'm talking about modern health science, independent studies. And there's more than I think there's 57 or 59 of them that I've looked at, have identified that fatigue is the direct cause of more than 100 chronic human health diseases. And it's the fatigue that is driving the body aches. It's the fatigue that is driving the joint pain. It's the fatigue that's driving the heart disease and the cancer and the diabetes. And it's the fatigue. And if you were to just get your energy back, 80% of those problems would just get better, maybe more.
Yeah.
And it's really important to understand that the state that you're in, the state that you're allowing yourself to be in, is literally feeding fatigue, and is feeding a lot of other problems. And the reason we're so adamant about energy and getting yourself back on fire, because we know at its root, fatigue is the weed, and it's the weed that you need to pull out of your system. And there's just more, and there's more than just one of them. And so it's funny how people just think, well, it's just the state, it's just how I am.
Yeah, the state, like I said, too, you want to start noticing what's the language that you're using. And I think I mentioned that before. And I want to hone in on this idea that, a lot of our language when we're exhausted is filled with words of doubt, right? Like probably won't work for me, sounds too good to be true, kind of doubting what other people say, or doubting, your future ideas or plans. You've got to really notice, again, what is the language that you're using? And, a lot of people can actually see it in others, right? You go out into social situations, and a lot of times it's just this constant sort of competition, or talking about all the things that are wrong or how exhausted you are. And just kind of notice, the language that people are using, because it absolutely affects your state, right? And state, like we said, it is going to undermine everything if you're not really checking in. Okay, how is my state? What's happening here?
Right. And you guys, you know that your state isn't good. And that leads into what Ellie is talking about with your language is, what's your story? This is the second hidden threat that we see over and over again. And people basically telling themselves a story that they ultimately believe is true.
Mm-hmm.
And the crazy thing is you can change your story. And Elliot, you're really good at explaining it. So take that to the next step.
Well, it's really, I think the most simple way to look at it, which I'm sure a lot of you have heard, is the difference between, are you going to look at this from the victim perspective or like a superhero perspective, right? But we all have stories about why we're exhausted, or why nothing's going to change for us, or why we can't level up our careers the way we want, or why we can't spend more time with our kids or our spouses or our loved ones. And so it's really asking yourself, what is this identity that I have created for myself? Now, a lot of them you're going to find are stories that, society has kind of placed on you, like, well, it's normal to be tired after 40, right? Like just accepting that you should feel like crap for the second half of your entire life.
Yeah.
Right? That's another story that we buy into. And so you really want to look at what are the things, that you're believing about your scenario or your case. Another thing we hear a big story about is like, I don't have the resources, right? A lot of times, a lot of the people we talk to, there's a strange idea that investing in your health, it's like, oh, I'll do that when I have, when I hit a certain mark, or that's something that's later. But people don't understand how much this is costing them, right? You're paying either way, is what we like to say.
Yeah, and I want to stack on that a little bit. And it absolutely blows my mind. Guys, your health is not a matter of resources. Your health is a matter of being resourceful. It's resourcefulness, right? And what you really have to get real with is that, one, you weren't born this way. You've got a lot of learned behavior. You've got a lot of learned habits. You've got a lot of things that society has taught us that we should be this way or we shouldn't be that way, and it probably started when you were a kid, feeling like, I'm not good enough, feeling like I'm not good looking enough, feeling like there's all the questions that you can ask in there. I'm not strong enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not whatever it is enough. Or I was just born this way. My parents are just like this. And yeah, well, maybe your parents are like that, but that's probably you're like that because you learned to be like that.
Yeah, one thing I hear too a lot is like, for a lot of the high achievers, it's a frustration of like, I'm not winning. And that story of I'm not winning makes them drive themselves into the ground, right? Because they're like, I can't not be a winner. Like I have to win, win, win. And there's that underlying drive. And, what's fascinating, Adam, is, when we were watching, I can't remember her name now, but we watched an incredible speech last night where one was really talking about these personas and identities we create as kids when we realize, we feel like we're outcasts. So we come up with these different strategies to be accepted. So for some people, it's I have to always be the winner so that people will love me, or I always have to be perfect so people will love me, or because I'm an outcast, I just have to be a people pleaser so everyone will love me. And these are the kind of things, these are the stories that you get stuck in, and they're very hidden, right? You don't realize you're stuck in this story.
Right. It was Christine Hassler.
Thank you.
Christine Hassler. That's who we were watching last night. And yeah, it's funny how, we're just brought up and we're just taught to make up our story, and that this is the only story that can happen. Like there's no other story. This is my story. This is who I am. This is how my life's going to be. And I cannot tell you how more wrong if you're believing that. If you change your story and what you believe is possible, amazing things happen. And here's what we know for sure. When your brain can't make things up that aren't achievable.
Yeah. And, I think too, a lot of times when people, when you're exhausted and you hear you can change your story, you can create this, a lot of times we think we have to go into this grandiose, our brain immediately goes into this grandiose idea of what our life could be. And it's almost like we're jumping too far too soon. So then we immediately think, well, that's so unattainable, right? But we have to remember that it's really a lot of the smaller goals that we have that we're really looking to do, like feel great on a Saturday morning, right?
Right. Well, I think it's more important. I think people will identify more with, I can't because if I do this, I'm going to hurt other people in my life.
Yeah,
or I'm going to be taking something away from the other people in my life. And what the reality is is that by you staying in a modality of fatigue, being tired and not operating at your full potential, you're actually causing more hurt to your professional career, to your family life, to the people that you love the most, because you're not operating at your potential. And what ends up happening, and we see it over and over again, and it's been a proven stat. Forbes just released a report saying that 47% of people, or is it 57%? 47 or 57. Anyways, around half the people in America are forced to retire early. Forced to retire early because of disability due to health problems caused by fatigue.
Fatigue, running themselves into the ground.
Not taking care of themselves.
Yeah.
And taking care of everything else out there. So, it's very admirable that you have this thought that, I can't sacrifice, or I'm going to sacrifice myself for my family, or I can't because I've got too many kids, or, I can't do this for myself. But in reality, you're actually going to damage your family. You're going to start sucking energy away from them, and you're just not bringing energy to the room. And if you don't get real with that story, you've got to change it.
It's so true. And I really wish that someone had taken me aside about 10 years ago and really gotten real with me in this way, because I look back at what burnout and fatigue and all of that, what that spiraling effect of exhaustion had on my life. And I just, I have to now look at it as a gift because I'm here and I'm able to help others. But it also breaks my heart when I look back and realize, what I allowed to happen, not only for myself, but for the people around me, how I wasn't really being my best. And I thought I kind of was, but I was actually just doing more damage than good.
Yeah. So here's how you got to change your story. One, if you're thinking you're just too old, I cannot tell you the number of people in their 40s, 50s, and 60s that come in and that we work with directly, and we have incredible results with, and overcoming their fatigue very quickly and getting their energy back online. So age is just a number. You've got to change that story right there. Thinking that you're broken, I understand that. I dealt with fatigue and burnout for almost 20 years. And I went out there and I tried everything. And we're going to get to that in a second in the third hidden threat there. And when you're trying everything and nothing's working, it just means you haven't found the right thing yet. So you've got to tell yourself that you can heal. When you give your body the proper tools, the proper system, the proper everything, you can be fixed. You can get your energy back. You're not broken. And you've got to change your thought around, I don't have the resources. It's not a matter of resources. It's a matter of being resourceful, because putting your energy first, putting your health first is no kidding like printing money. When you get your energy back online, it's absolutely amazing. And Ellie, I guess this is a great leeway into, the third hidden threat, and that is, what's your strategy?
Yep.
And I'll start. And when I was dealing with my fatigue and burnout, like I said, for 19 years and 7 months, like I got it down to I was tired for almost 20 years. I burned out 3, maybe 4 hardcore times. And each time was a traumatic, life-changing event, from divorce to injuries to health problems to everything. And so I went out there and I did what most, dedicated, tenacious, people do. I looked at all the general health advice. I did more exercise. I tried eating well. I drank more water. I did what I could to get more sleep. And when that didn't work, I went to the doctors. And what I realized is that they have very little to offer when it comes to dealing with fatigue. And they told me that there was nothing wrong with me, that it was probably my tiredness was just a symptom of my anxiety or my depression, and I should just medicate to help me sleep at night, and then medicate during the day to not be depressed. And the back aches and the joint problems, here, let's give you some drugs for that too. And I'm like, and I tried them, and they kind of like mellowed things out a little bit. They really didn't help. Like I was still tired. I was still kind of fatigued all the time. And it was a moderate level. Like I never hit chronic fatigue. But my health was taking a hit. I couldn't stand up straight. My natural body weight is what I am now. It's about 175 pounds, strong and lean and mean. But I was 250, almost 250, 249 and a half, something like that. So I was 26, almost 70 pounds overweight, almost 80 pounds overweight. Like I was overweight, like big time. And then, then I was thinking, okay, in 1998, the concept of adrenal fatigue came out. I'm like, okay, I'm going to supplement my adrenals, right? And when that didn't work, I was like, shit, I'm broken. I guess this is just what life is for me.
Yeah.
I guess this is what I got to look forward to, and I'm just going to have to push through and power through all this stuff. And guys, if you're following any of those strategies and they're not working, I can tell you that powering through and toughing out fatigue is probably the worst thing you could do, because it is your body literally crying out for help.
Yeah.
And I want you to think of it like this. You've got a backyard. There's a bunch of weeds growing in it. So you go and mow the backyard. So now it looks nice for a couple of days, right? But the weeds are still there, and the roots are getting stronger, and pretty soon they come up bigger and faster, and you've got more of a problem the next time you have to mow. So you mow again, and it looks good for a minute, but it gets worse and worse and worse. Pretty soon you don't have any grass left. You've got nothing but weeds. And so what you've got to do is you've got to change your strategy. You have got to go in there, and you have to, we call it, you've got to hack your internal power system. And because what's happening is, if you're consistently waking up tired more days during the week than not, you've got a lot of fatigue weeds growing in there, and your body has literally shifted into survival mode. Right, Elia?
Yeah, absolutely.
And go ahead.
I was going to say, and this really, boils down to, like you're saying, I think we have a tendency to think that, again, like you said, sort of generic health advice, I'll just drink more water, I get more exercise, I need to reduce my stress. But again, most people don't understand how all of these interconnect, and they forget like how much of a complex system we are, as far as emotionally, mentally, the thoughts we think, the food we're eating, our bodies, our genetics, our, the mental health, all of these parts and pieces, need to come together. And what we see a lot of the times are two opposite strategies. One is, I'm going to be so strict with everything I eat. I'm going to make sure I eat no sugar, no bread, only green leafies, only this, only that. But sometimes people restrict themselves so much that strategy of being, imperfect or doing all the perfect healthy things actually leads them to more fatigue, because they are not including other things in their life, right? They've restricted themselves so much that, again, that strategy isn't working for them.
They've contracted. Well, it goes back to the state that they're in. They've normalized where they are. It's going back to the story that they're telling themselves that I can't do it. I can't do it. I've got all this other stuff I've got to do. And then sacrificing themselves. And in reality, maybe you're like kind of person and you like to sacrifice yourself and you're ready to just shorten your life. I'm personally not. I'm personally the kind of person who wants to get out there and have a really positive impact on everybody that I meet. Whether it be, professionally or with my family or with my friends or just random people at the gas station. Like, I just want to have a really positive impact with everybody I meet. So you've got to change your strategy, guys. And this is where kind of move, think, smile comes into play. And I'm going to put the logo up there so you can see it. And just look at those three words. What if you woke up tomorrow and you could move, think, and smile with more energy in every area of your life? What if you woke up and you started the day and you ended the day feeling like a total rock star?
Yeah.
When was the last time that ever happened? It is very possible, but you have to go in and you have to attack the three energy centers. You've got to hack your internal power system. And those three energy centers are very simple: your physical energy, your mental energy, and your emotional energy.
Yep.
And you've got to get your cells literally to shift out of survival mode, because that's what's happening right now. There's too much modern health science out there showing how you can get and what's going on in your body. Guys, if your strategy, if your strategy isn't working, right, and you'd like to talk about a new way, Ellie and I would like to invite you to come over to movethinksmile.com/talk and to book a call to speak to one of us.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Your turn.
So I was going to say, if you guys, like Adam said, if the strategy isn't working, book that call with us. You'll spend about 45 minutes on the phone, and, it'll give you a really great, powerful starting point for understanding how to really get your freedom from fatigue. And this is so, 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 so key. And like we were talking about before, you might think you have the right strategy by, like I said, doing all the things that seem like are healthy. But if you're still exhausted, there is something wrong, right? Even if the doctors are saying
there's
nothing's wrong with you because you're like the epitome of health, but you're still exhausted, there is something wrong, and it's time to reach out.
You do have to understand something. I just want to throw that. I'll digress on this in a whole another video, but our current medical system really has little to offer when it comes to fatigue. Even the holistic practitioners out there, those medical doctors, have very little to offer when it comes to fatigue. And the reason our conventional medicine has it because, well, it's a sickness-based model. So if they give you a test, and if you test positive for something, they're going to do whatever they can, either with a physical procedure or with a chemical procedure, to get that test to come back down to non-existent, to normal levels, right? And then they just don't pay attention to anything else out there. They don't really understand what's causing that problem. So here's a great example. High blood pressure or heart disease. You've got the symptoms of high blood pressure. You've got the symptoms of heart disease. So what they'll do is they'll treat you for those symptoms. But what they don't really realize is that 9 times out of 10, that high blood pressure is being caused by your body shutting down, and you're tired, you're fatigued. Yeah. And even though you might be just running around like, I'm so stressed out, that's a warning sign.
Yeah.
Fatigue is an alarm system. So this is one of the reasons why the medical system just can't do it. Plus, they're also 15 to 25 years behind on current modern health science because of all the red tape, because of the FDA, because of all the regulations. It takes a really long time, all the studies, all the trials, everything, for them to catch up. And then the third thing on top of that is, well, they're a profit-based system. So you have the insurance companies and you have the drug companies that will get in there and lobby against things if they feel like it's going to cost them money or they can't make money. It happens over and over and over again. And guys, this is why using those strategies just to try and mask over the symptoms, you're just mowing the weeds.
Yeah.
That's all you're going to keep coming back. And pretty soon they're going to come back so thick, you're not going to be able to mow them anymore. And if you'd like to be able to just get the weeds out of your backyard, right, and turn that fatigue and burnout into some badass energy, please come over to movethinkSmile.com/talk. Book your call. Let's get on a phone and let's take a look at where you're at. Let's identify what's triggering your fatigue and how you can drastically increase your energy. Elia, you got anything else to add to that?
No, that's it. Just guys, take away from this again, just to wrap up, the 3 hidden threats to your energy. When you're feeling exhausted, you need to ask yourself, what's your state? What is, what's happening with your story? What's your strategy? Go back and watch this video and take a look at some of the things that we outlined under these sections and see, if you can start taking those steps. And if not, like Adam said, book a call.
All right. Talk to you guys soon. See you in a couple days. Thanks for tuning in to today's Burnout to Badass show. If you like what you heard and you're interested in seeing if you are fit to work with Move, Think, Smile, here's what I want you to do next. Head over to movethinksmile.com/talk. That's movethinksmile.com/talk and book an appointment to speak to our team. We'll get on the phone with you for about 45 minutes and get crystal clear on 3 things. Number 1, what